The stars whispered secrets, secrets of ancient empires, of civilizations so vast, so powerful, that their names once echoed across the void of space itself. Before a single human ever looked up at the night sky in wonder, there had been others, others who had ruled the stars. Across the galactic expanse, over 1,000 species thrived, each with their own histories, their own wars, and their own myths. But among all the stories passed down through ages, one legend was always different, more feared, more haunting, more dangerous. The legend of humanity. A race so unrelenting, so violent, that the elder species, the first races to claim dominance over the stars, made a terrifying decision. They didn't just fight the humans, they erased them. Every record, every trace. Purged from databases, deleted from archives, stripped from the galactic memory. It was genocide, not just of bodies, but of legacy. Some say humanity destroyed itself, in wars so vast they shattered entire solar systems. Others whispered they had fled, escaping beyond the edge of mapped space, into the dark unknown, watching, waiting. But in the grand halls of the Dominion of Raal, the ruling power of the galaxy for over 3,000 years, the name human was nothing more than a myth, a bedtime story. Until the day, something moved on the edge of their empire. Deep space sensors picked up an anomaly, unregistered ships, strange signal patterns. Assuming it was pirates or perhaps a rogue colony ship, they dispatched a single dreadnought, the Vash, to investigate and eliminate. The Dominion didn't expect a battle, they expected a sweep. But what they found was something else. Crude vessels. Ugly, old, and brutal in design. Shaped by war, not aesthetics. Their hulls bore the scars of hundreds of battles. Their engines roared like dying beasts. The crew of the Vash laughed. These weren't warships, they were relics. Then the message came. Broadcast on a frequency that hadn't been used in centuries. A language the Dominion had long erased from their archives. We are humanity. Surrender or be destroyed. Silence followed. And then, fear. Real, primal fear. The sensors confirmed it. These ships were ancient, but they moved with purpose, with discipline, with precision. Admiral Vakos of the Vash gave the order to destroy them. It was the last command he would ever give, because in less than an hour, the myth became a nightmare. The humans didn't lose a single ship, and from that moment on, the galaxy would never be the same. The Dominion of Raal had never known fear. Their empire stretched across hundreds of star systems. Their technology was centuries ahead of their rivals. Their fleets were unmatched, perfect machines of conquest. And yet, they had underestimated the one thing they thought extinct: humanity. The destruction of the Vash dreadnought was just the beginning. When word reached Dominion Command, disbelief turned to panic. They launched a full armada, hundreds of ships, the largest deployment in generations. But the humans, they didn't run. They attacked. No declarations, no negotiations, just war. Human vessels weaved through the Dominion's fleets like phantoms, dodging plasma blasts with unnatural precision. Their outdated weapons, brutally effective. Their tactics, alien, terrifying, effective. The first battle was chaos. The Dominion expected a massacre, and it was. But they were the ones being slaughtered. Entire squadrons wiped out in minutes. Capital ships torn apart by kinetic slugs and railgun fire. 1,000 years of dominance, shattered in a single encounter. And then, silence. Human fleets vanished into the void, but not for long. Days later, 3 more Dominion systems fell, then 5, then 10. It wasn't war anymore. It was a purge. The humans weren't claiming territory. They were eliminating resistance. And for the first time in its history, the Dominion faced an enemy it didn't understand. A race that had crawled out of extinction and returned not for conquest, but for vengeance. Panic spread like wildfire through the Dominion's elite. Worlds that had stood for centuries were now burning, entire fleets gone. The High Council convened, desperate for answers. What do they want? Where are they coming from? How is this possible? The answer was chilling. Humanity had never truly vanished. They had survived the purge, scattered, broken, hunted to the edge of known space. But they adapted. They endured. And in the shadows, across forgotten moons and asteroid belts, they built. Silently. Relentlessly. With purpose. When the Dominion uncovered the truth, buried in their most restricted archives, the lie unraveled. Humanity had once been a rising star in the galaxy. Not tyrants, not invaders, but relentless survivors. It was the Dominion who had struck first. Long ago, when humans advanced too quickly, when they began forming alliances, mastering technologies faster than anyone else, the old powers panicked. They chose genocide over diplomacy. They didn't just attack human colonies. They erased them. And now, the Forgotten had returned. Not as rebels, not as liberators, but as executioners. The Dominion had committed a sin so great, even their descendants could no longer escape the consequences. And the humans? They had waited centuries for this moment. The first planet fell in silence. Then came the second, and the third. Chorus 9, once a thriving industrial world, was reduced to ruins. Cities burned for weeks. When the fires died, the human flag rose over the ashes. That was the message. The war was no longer about survival. It was retribution. Dominion commanders tried everything. Advanced warships, orbital cannons, even biological weapons. Nothing worked. Humanity's soldiers were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. They fought in the mud, in the fire, in the ruins. They didn't send drones. They were the weapons. Shock troopers in jet-black exosuits. Sniper teams that moved like ghosts. Commandos that didn't retreat, only advanced. The Dominion soldiers had never fought enemies like this. Enemies who did not surrender. Enemies who didn't follow the rules. Entire battalions were wiped out overnight. Supply lines cut. Shipyards annihilated. This wasn't a conventional war. It was total war. The humans weren't just reclaiming territory. They were making sure the Dominion would never rise again. Supreme Chancellor Vakos stood in silence. Before him, flickering holograms of burning cities, shattered fleets, and fleeing citizens. He issued a final order. Initiate the planetary annihilation protocol. If he couldn't win, he would take the galaxy with him. But before the order was carried out, the doors to the war chamber exploded open. A single figure stepped forward, human. Flanked by two soldiers, he removed his helmet, eyes burning with something far worse than hatred, certainty. Vakos snarled, "What do you want?" The human's voice was calm. "Justice." Outside, Verol Prime, the Dominion's capital, fell in a single night. The sky turned to flame as orbital defenses were hijacked. Dominion ships were destroyed by their own systems. Citizens fled. Soldiers surrendered. And at sunrise, the flag of humanity flew over the Dominion's last tower. It was over. The myth had become the reckoning. There were no peace treaties, no surrender terms, no mercy. The Dominion's high command executed. Its military dismantled. Its propaganda silenced. Across the galaxy, one final broadcast was sent. A human commander, battle-worn and calm, stood before the camera. The Dominion is no more. Your leaders are dead. Your fleets are gone. Your empire has fallen. For centuries you ruled through fear. You erased our past. You tried to erase us, but we are still here. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. But we understand one thing clearly. Justice. Images followed. Dominion prisoners in chains. Survivors weeping on burned worlds. Humans rebuilding. The galaxy stood still. Worlds long enslaved by the Dominion were now free. Some celebrated. Others panicked. But none dared challenge the humans, because now they knew the truth. Humanity had survived extinction, and they had rewritten the fate of the stars.